Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Like fire on the Christmas tree. We're doing this
That's
thing.
horrible. Have you been double dipping in the eggnog tonight?
Oh, boy, I feel like I should have been.
You probably should have been. How's your holiday?
It was good. It was festive.
Did you see anything on your holiday? That's all I care about.
Did I see anything
new?
on my holiday?
Did you take advantage of the Christmas openings?
You know, I did not get a chance. I didn't
either, and I regret it. I still haven't seen Walter Mitty, and that makes me crazy.
I haven't seen anything. I didn't even get to take the kids to a movie.
Oh,
I was gonna go see Walking with Dinosaurs with
Yeah.
them, but I didn't get to do that either. It's been and a very anticlimactic holiday season in terms of film watching.
shame.
Yes.
That's a shame. It's a holiday shame.
You're
A
darn
pox
tootin'.
upon your house, sir.
Wow.
Let me tell you, my house. I've created a monster in my house.
Really?
We've had this Christmas
Frankenstein's monster?
tradition.
Is it going to be called Wright's Monster?
No, it's not going to be called that. Although I will tell you that that Santa for Christmas gave my wife Wright socks and a game for our family from Wright Games.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. No, that's not why I've created Monster. Monster is when I was a young man, a young lad. Our tradition at my house was, every Christmas Eve we would break out National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and we would join the Griswolds in a little Yuletide cheer. And as I've grown older, as I've grown to become a man, that tradition has stuck with us, and I brought that to my family, and that's what we wanted. The kids go to bed, and then my wife and I sit down, and when her family comes in, they just fully expect that we're going to sit down and watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And this year, I had the nerve, the gall, to offer up an alternative, any alternative to National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which, believe me, people, I love this film. I deeply love National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I just thought it might be nice to shake it up just a little bit. And no one will have it. They will not have it. They will not even think about it. I mentioned other films that we've done on the show. I mentioned that we're doing tonight. We're doing Christmas in Connecticut. And they'll say, the Griswolds, what will they do if we're not there to watch them?
It's like they're in the world of Toy Story, how the toys come to life.
Yes.
It's like all the movie characters are sitting there
Waiting.
in their little digital files, waiting for you to put them in again so they can act it out again.
To do what they are meant to do. To perform for us in a tiny box of electrons.
Excellent.
So I'm pretty upset about that. But, it's okay. We made it through.
It
But
does
it's
happen.
just hard to believe that I'm the one who's now ready for change.
I'm a little shocked at that. It is very easy at the holiday season to start feeling like you're in that holiday movie rut.
Yeah. What'd you do? You did We're No Angels while you were cooking?
We're No Angels. Let's see, Wizard of Oz, Elf, Miracle on 34th Street, A Christmas Story, I think 3 times. Yeah, and then the entire Rankin Bass collection. It's been like nonstop loop of Christmas movies, and the worst of them is when I go over to my in-laws' house. Now I love my in-laws, don't get me wrong, but they have the colorized version of Miracle on 34th Street, which pains me that it gets put in every year. I have to like go to sleep to take a nap when they put it on because I just can't stand sitting watching the colorized version.
You're kind of a purist.
I am a bit of a purist.
Well, I totally understand what you're feeling. I'm shopping for a new TV. Did you know that?
Oh, I think you told me that. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm on the market, and so what I've heard is there's a tie-in, the small screen to big screen thing.
Okay.
What did you said you just popped for a new TV, right?
Yes.
What'd you get? Go ahead, lay it out.
Oh, you ask me all these things. I don't know all this.
You don't know.
I click on all the buttons. I do the research,
and then it's gone.
I looked it up. It's like one of the best sellers you could get for the money.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah, and then I buy it, and then I forget all of that stuff.
Well,
like I'm hard pressed to even remember the brand.
I've spent so long not thinking about televisions that thinking about television gives me a little bit of heartburn. But I started the process, and what I learned is what I think many people learn is that Samsung's kind of at the top of the mountain right now, mostly because they're the biggest and they throw the most money at it, and they now manufacture all the panels for a lot of other companies like Sony And they have this thing. I was over at a buddy's house, and he put on a movie. It was for his kids, and we were watching it, and it was. I swear to you, it was that same feeling I get when watching High Frame Rate at the Hobbit.
Oh,
it's like actors on stage wearing
Yep.
costumes. It's no more fantasy. It's so clear. It's like they're in a little. I'm looking through a window. Were you going to say something?
I have, yes. I have a string on my finger.
Okay. So I went to the store and I asked the guy, what is this that I'm looking at? Because there I'm in the store, I see the same model television that was on the TV at my buddy's house. And he says, well, that's the Samsung model, 7100, whatever. It's kind of the 7100 and the 8000 are the kind of premium lines for Samsung. And he said, it's because they have this 240 hertz refresh rate instead of 60 on the low end, 120 kind of in the mid range now, and 240 on the high end, and that they have this boost refresh rate for certain modes that sends it into the stratosphere in terms of clarity and motion correction. In other words, they get rid of all motion correction at all. It's just like so clear. It's like frame by frame by frame. And I don't understand what most of that means, other than the fact that it looks really terrible when you're watching something. I imagine it'll look great during the Olympics. You know what I mean? Like watching live sports and maybe news, it'll look fantastic. But when you're watching a movie, it looks terrible. It looks terrible. I can't, like I said last week, I cannot believe that people producing this equipment look at it and they say, gosh, that looks really great, because it looks awful. And so it turns out that you can turn it off. It's part of Samsung's like Clear Vision or Clear View thing, and you can turn it down. So all the innovation that they put into it, they've actually given you a kill switch, which is, I think, positive. Anyway, I was very frustrated by that, because it turns out that's probably the panel. I would just have to pick the size that we want, because otherwise it's pretty darn good. So if anybody has any great recommendations, man, I am all ears, because I need to, it's Super Bowl season is coming up. And that's when they start dropping the prices on these things to move TVs toward the end of January. So I got a couple of weeks. Then I'm going to be shopping.
That is something that is, one of those things on all the TVs. That's exactly how ours looked when I got it, and it drove me nuts. And we both were just ready to turn it off and not turn it back on. But yeah, it is one of those functions that's in the TV. You got to find the little on-off thing for that and kill it. The other thing that's important to do that I swear nobody does is get a calibration disc. I don't know what you're going to use if you're going to have, Blu-ray, digital, whatever you're going to do. But you should at least get. I don't think they do any sort of calibration tests just through streaming. You might have to hook up a Blu-ray deck or something to your TV just to calibrate it.
Yeah.
But you should have a calibration disc and actually calibrate the TV, because you want to make sure that all that stuff is set properly. And most people don't do that. And I swear, I can't even watch TV at my in-laws' house because everything is still squished, and it's like, it drives me nuts.
So calibration. So the calibration disc does more than just deal with color and contrast and brightness and that stuff.
No, it does all that and audio and everything,
Yeah.
but it also helps you check your aspect ratio and make sure all that stuff is set properly. And it helps just look at all that sort of stuff. And, I think in every TV, you're going to have to go through all those menus, those picture menus, which, mine is like at least 3 screens long of different options to adjust different things related to the picture. And you do want to go through all that. And I just took everything that had some sort of an auto setting and I turned them all off, because there's just a whole page of things that do all these different auto adjustments that it's like I don't want it to do. So you definitely need to pay attention to that sort of stuff when you get a new TV.
Terrible. But good advice. And yeah, I'm in talking about Blu-ray. What I'm thinking is, it's probably going to be my next game console.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Because I don't do I don't have a Blu-ray player. It's all just it's all in the computer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'll be the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, but that'll probably be the player I use. What I hear is, and I'm sure someone's going to write in and tell me where I'm wrong or send me a great resource. I would appreciate that. But what I hear is the sort of best bang for your buck Blu-ray is the Sony, because it's in. It tends to be the top of the market,
Yeah.
Actual device built into the PS4. So So I'll probably end up going that way, but I don't know. I've been an Xbox guy for an awful long time.
Sony's Blu-ray players are pretty slick.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
All right. Enough about that.
Enough TV banter.
We are the Next Reel, everybody. We are the Next Reel, and we're darn happy to be here this holiday week. We spoil movies. That's what it's our job. It's what we do. It's why we gather here every week. We spoil old films, and this week is no different. You can find us at thenextreel.com. You can also subscribe to the show for free by way of iTunes there. It's the best way to catch up with us, and we sure appreciate any kind words or reviews that you have to share there. And if you leave a review, you will enter to win, right? Our big contest. Right. To what are they winning for?
Well, they're going to have to do it in the next few days, right?
Yeah, right, by January 1st.
Yeah, before the end of the year, you need to enter so that you can pick a movie. We're gonna draw one lucky person out of the hat, and they're going to get to pick a movie that we're going to review and talk about on the show. Can't
wait for that. You can also head to facebook.com/thenextreel or Google plus.com. Let's see, it's google.com/+thenextreelpodcast. It's a whole mess there with the plus.
Just click on the link from the website.
Yeah, you should go there and do that. And then you should also, for the real fanatics who want to see where we've been and where we're going, head over to either flickchart.com/thenextreel or Letterboxd. And you can see our watch list for the 2014 season. Andy, how'd we do this week on the Instagram Guess the Movie Pony Prize?
Boy, I last week I said this was going to be an easy one, and less than an hour for posting the first picture, our good friend Hunt Thug Nasty picked it, and he knew obviously right away that the image I posted was from Elf, a nice little holiday treat, and so that was obviously very easy. Maybe I should not pick holiday movies
during the holidays
the when everyone is watching them.
Yeah.
I was trying to be all thematic and
hey, there's lessons around every corner.
Yes, there are.
Life's little lessons.
But congratulations to Hunt Thug Nasty. He's entered to win our pony prize, and one of these days we'll actually draw that.
We got it. We're very excited about it. It's coming together. It's seriously coming together in a big way.
It is.
It's not a car. Every week we should just add another thing that it's not, just so we keep expectations.
That's not right.
Rationalize expectations. Excellent. Fantastic. Let's talk about... Oh, God. Let's talk about trailers.
It's trailer time. It's Christmas for Pete.
I cannot believe the universe has conspired against me as it has. I'm going to go first.
And for you.
Oh, shut it. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go first because I feel like I got to get it out of the way. I can't believe that I'm choosing this, but I'm choosing Draft Day. Draft Day is a new film from Ivan Reitman, written by Scott Rothman and Rajiv Joseph. It stars Jennifer Garner, Tom Welling, Terry Crews, Sam Elliott, Ellen Burstyn, David Ramsey, Rosanna Arquette comes out of the woodwork. I'm a big fan of Dennis Leary. He's in this film. Frank Langella, Skeletor himself, is in this film, and Christopher Cousins, with what I am told is a brief guest appearance from Kevin Costner. It's weird that he would get top billing and his face on the poster for such a small part. What I can only hope is such a small part. You know what? I don't know about that. I'm really torn on this film because I chose this trailer because of my love of Moneyball.
Yeah.
It feels very much like Moneyball, but with football. And that's great. I am excited about, just as I was with Moneyball, I'm excited about a film that takes on a sports franchise from a new angle. And I love this angle of business. It feels like somebody saw Moneyball and said, you know what, we should totally do that with football, and hopefully a good movie comes out of it. I'm excited about that. That it has Kevin Costner in it is, he doesn't look bad in this movie. I'm doesn't necessarily look terrible, so I'm holding out hope. I've got a candle that maybe this will turn me around. But the fact that this trailer, which is due April 11th, 2014, USA, that this trailer would come out within days of another major 2014 Kevin Costner release makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit.
It's interesting that I don't know if it's interesting, but I find it interesting that Tom Welling, a.k.a. one of the many Supermen out there.
Yes. Who played Superman, I think, the longest, right? That's like 11 years, 9 years or something. 11 years?
I don't know. You would know better. I don't know how long Lois and Clark ran. That was probably not that long.
I thought it was like 7 years.
Yeah. But that he's in this with Kevin Costner, who played Pa Kent.
I know.
Yeah. And Ellen Burstyn, who tweets. I think it looks really funny. I'm looking forward to it. And it's thrilling to talk about this. And my pick for trailers this week, I really wasn't going to do this to you, but you brought it upon yourself by picking a Kevin Costner movie. I only had to give you this as a Christmas present. But this is the
Nails
trailer.
in coffins come to mind.
The trailer for the Kevin Costner action drama thriller with just a touch of Luc Besson French comedy thrown in, 3 Days to Kill. Luc Besson is one of the writers on this, along with Adi Hasek. McGee is directing this. Not a lot of stuff making me want to stand up and go watch this movie. Unfortunately, I think I'd much rather watch your Kevin Costner film.
Yeah.
But, it looks like, if anything, it'll have that antic Luc Besson energy to it. Kevin Costner is a dying Secret Service agent who needs to get this experimental drug, but only if he will do this one last assignment. And so he's got 3 days to kill, as the title says. Haley Steinfeld is his daughter. Amber Heard looks like the handler in this. And, it looks over the top and silly. And, I mean, this is one of those ones that I'll probably watch late at night.
Right after you watch Terminator Salvation.
I did watch a late at night Christmas Eve movie this year, and I forgot to mention.
Oh, what was that?
I watched Olympus Has Fallen.
Oh, this was the one of the White House
This was one of the White House
thing,
movies, and I only watched it because it was late at night, and we were just flipping through Netflix.
Hey, man, we're just
ready
people.
to fall asleep.
We're all just people here. There's no apologies.
I put it on, and I was like, I'll just fall asleep to this. I was awake till the end, and I mean, it wasn't very good, but I had a great time watching it. So there, everybody. It's not something I would ever watch again, but it's these are those movies that are like perfect,
everybody.
like perfect late at night, just trash. So there you go. 3 Days to Kill. I look forward to watching that maybe next Christmas Eve as I drift off to sleep.
I will confirm so that we can keep people from worrying about it. Lois and Clark ran for 4 seasons. Smallville for 10.
Oh, good. I'm glad that. Well, now wait a minute. How long was it George Reeves or George? What's the guy? I don't know his name.
The original Superman.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to find that. That would be the.
What's his name?
Goodness, yeah. I think you're right, George Reeves. It was Superman.
I was going to say that,
series.
and I was like, well, it's Christopher Reeve, and I don't know.
The Adventures of Superman TV series that ran for 6 seasons.
So maybe it is Tom Welling.
I think it might be Tom Welling, unless you count number of just years associated with it. I mean, obviously Christopher Reeve played over the course of so many years. From when did the first one come out? 78? 78 through
was it 86?
Superman 4, A Quest for Peace, 87.
87, yeah.
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was a really, really bad movie. Anyway, 3 Days to Kill, February 21st, 2014. Luc Besson, comedy stylings. Ah, yes.
Oh, you know what I forgot to mention? Oh, totally. If anybody wants a ringtone of Andy singing the theme song to The Blob, check out the blog. You can get it and download it and put it on your phone, and then whenever Andy calls you, like me, he'll sing to you, and you'll never want to answer your phone because it's so great. We also have Tommy Handsome singing the new Flick Chart song as a ringtone. Priceless.
Good stuff. We need to get you singing something for
You'll
our
never
ringtone.
have anything because I do the show. You'll never have that kind of information on me.
Curses. Foiled again.
Let's talk about this movie tonight, shall we?
Let's.
Who said there isn't any Santa Claus? Look what I found in my stocking.
Heaven help a sailor on a Christmas like this. This is the jolliest, merriest Christmas I ever spent.
Nah. It is so romantic. It gives me pimples all over the goose. Yeah.
I'm as free as a bird.
Oh, that's what you think.
Don't you come near me, you sea-wolf. After the way you've deceived me.
I deceived
warn you,
you.
if you take another step, I'll scream.
I can't remember. Had you seen this? Is this one that you knew about?
I never had heard of this movie before.
Who recommended this?
This was in our
This was
search.
on Facebook, right?
No, it was our search for quaint classic Christmas movies that we hadn't really heard of before, kind of keeping this tradition alive of picking movies that neither of us had really seen, or maybe only one of us had seen, or we only remotely heard of. This was one that, it just kind of came up in our search of Christmas movies, and we thought we'd give it a go.
And go we did give it. 1945, Christmas in Connecticut, directed by Peter Godfrey, written by Lionel Hauser, Adele Comandini. Is that how you would say that if you were?
That's how I would say that.
Story by Eileen Hamilton, starring Barbara Stanwyck, Dennis Morgan, Sidney Greenstreet, Reginald Gardiner, S.Z. Sakall, and many more people, but those were the most fun ones.
The most.
Ranked in order of fun.
Those are the ones.
Those are the ones that we
on our fun list.
on our fun list. I both love and hate this film at once.
Oh, really?
I do. I do. I'm so conflicted about this film because it is one that is, if you just sort of let go and watch it, it's it's a script that is, it's nice and it's quick dialogue. There is not a lot of fat in this film. I mean, to me, it moves along very quickly, and from sort of escapade to escapade, it's a romp through this poor woman's horrible choices, and at the same time, it is a film that, around every corner, there is another cultural norm that no longer holds up in our day, right? There's just like, it's a movie that exists in 1945 and couldn't exist in any other year after, to me. And so I find it it's like walking through a cultural museum. For me, I had a good time watching it. I deeply enjoyed watching Barbara Stanwyck and Dennis Morgan, but mostly Sidney Greenstreet having the wool pulled right over his eyes. And I enjoyed the film, and yet it was hard to watch.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun watching it. I mean, it is dated, but not in a way where it really made it hard to watch for me. I really just enjoyed it. It was very just kind of fun and festive, but it also was, I think, an interesting take on kind of the screwball comedy, because it does kind of have that kind of zaniness and that speed that you were talking about. Like, there's not a lot of fat. It really just kind of moves along pretty quickly at a
Right.
quick clip. And, just with all the switching of the babies and the flipping of the pancakes and the cow coming in the kitchen. I mean, it's just like this nonstop stuff going on. And it really is fun to watch. And I do have a lot of fun. And it does, I think if anything feels dated, it is just kind of some of the attitudes and everything and the way things are handled. But at the same time, what I found really interesting was that even though it sets us up with this woman, I mean, basically the premise of the story is this woman who writes articles in this magazine. I can't remember the magazine, but it's one of those like ladies' home journal types of magazines. She writes this column about, with all these recipes, and she's always talking about her home in Connecticut, her farm in Connecticut, and her wonderful husband and her baby, and just this fantastic life. And what happens is the editor of the paper gets this war hero who, for some reason, he's this woman that is in love with the war hero is convinced that if he only spends Christmas with somebody solid like this woman, that he will fall for her. He'll get over this fear of getting married. And it's kind of a bit of a silly premise. But
yeah, the whole premise, the fact that this Christmas movie opens on a submarine and then, 2 weeks adrift at sea, dreaming of fine meals.
I know, it's great. Well, I know this movie is like 1945 food porn is really what this movie is all about. It's really funny.
Totally.
So the editor convinces her that she needs to bring this war hero home to her home in Connecticut and make him a wonderful meal. And so she has to fake this whole life, and then it's kind of the screwball antics ensue, and it is a lot of fun to watch. But I think what was interesting is it takes this woman who's a single woman. She's faking this whole thing. She has this entirely just boring life in a New York apartment, and she borrows the recipes from this magazine guy, Uncle Felix, quote unquote, who works at the restaurant downstairs. That's S.Z. Sakall, who is just, I think, wonderful in this film. And she uses his recipes that he gives her, and so they have to fake this whole thing to pull the wool over this war hero, his eyes and her boss's eyes at the same time. And it's a very fun movie, but the way that they play it makes it seem like at one point it's like the only way a woman is going to be happy is by being at home and cooking and kind of being the domestic little housewife. But I think what I really enjoyed about this film, if you're looking at it like in, kind of this perspective, is that it's not belittling this woman. It's not saying the only way that you can really be a good wife is by being the perfect housewife and all that. It's creating this impossible thing for, like, it basically, her column has created this impossible thing for any person to ever live up to. And so she herself is trying to live up to this, unachievable perfection of home life and domesticity that I think by the end she kind of realizes is completely unrealistic. And then the way that she has this relationship with this man that she's pretending to be her husband, who's some guy who really wants to marry her, even though she admits she never loves him, but she kind of agrees to marry him because nothing else is coming along. But even then,
and he's the guy who actually owns the farm in Connecticut, and
right.
He's stolen all of her, or he's provided her the inspiration for her column.
Exactly, right. But even then, as the whole ruse is kind of coming to an end, she still says, and this is while she thinks that her man that she's now fallen in love with, this war hero, Jefferson Jones, while she thinks that he's I lost my train of thought. While that he is engaged to this other woman, she still is going to cancel her marriage. So it's she's realized that she doesn't have to be married to be happy. And so I like that it's playing with kind of against expectations for a 1945 film, that the only way a woman can be happy is by being married and being this domestic housewife. So I think there's something really interesting about that's going on in this film that I think for me, makes it stand up a little more than just completely stuck in the time.
Well, and maybe that's why I took it actually one step further than you here, is that yes, it's I think the resolution of the film gets us back around to the fact that, a woman can be happy, and not be, just flipping flapjacks in the kitchen as Mr. Yardley so desperately wants, and his circulation he believes apparently wants. But the fact that most of the film sets up this precedent that in order for a woman to be happy and successful, she has to lie about it to everyone, and that there is no way to be happy and successful with integrity, whether you're trying to create craft a business and wear mink coats, as she is, and borrow against her next 6 months' salary to do it. She's lying to the most important people on which her success wholly depends.
Sure.
In order to reap that success, and that's the thing that just sort of left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. I feel like you have to get over that and realize that so much of this film is written, as just a very crisp romp through this, as I said, this sort of trip through bad decisions and chaos, and that part is the fun part. Once they get out of the city and into the farm, it's it ends up being a lot of fun. And again, the resolution, once I was satisfied in the kind of film that this was and get over myself and stop thinking, the resolution is actually quite rewarding to me. But there is this whole segment where, they they play quite liberally with the conventions of marriage and fidelity, and the sort of beating heart and soul of this film in Jefferson Jones, the pure sort of, the pure Navy man, is constantly sort of tested and testing her. And as he believes she's married, and they have this whole kind of ongoing, would you ever kiss a married woman bit? And she desperately wants to kiss him. She wants to get kissed by him. She's in love with him at first sight, but she has this pretense of a marriage that they can't quite get legalized, but that's the lie that she's living. So she has to kind of live it out.
Yeah.
So,
but and I think she's in on it because she does. It comes to a point at the end, like any screwball comedy, with these kind of this sort of circumstantial situation that they're all put into, which we've seen countless times. Ben Stiller does it really well.
Right,
it's the sort of situation where when it does come time to come clean at the end, she realizes that she needs to come clean before anyone's getting hurt and anything. So I do agree with everything you're saying. I do feel though that she does find a way to kind of come clean and come out of the whole thing without.
Well, and come clean. I think we get the initial reaction when she comes clean and says that explains she comes clean around the escapade of the baby when she had borrowed this baby, which was being taken care of by the maid of the house while the mothers are off at the work. And so she's using this baby as a prop so that because Mr. Yardley, the publisher, believes that she has a baby that she's been writing about in the column. And there are some fun bits about the gender of the baby, that she's been writing about a baby that's not the same gender as the baby that's in her house, and then the baby gets swapped, and a boy for girl, because another mother needs care from the maid at the house, and Mr. Yardley gets very upset that Elizabeth Lane doesn't care about her own child and fires her when she comes clean and said this is all a fraud.
Yeah.
And that. Otherwise would be that, and I think, today we very much would have seen that be that, I think. But it wasn't that. She ends up sort of upending the power equation on Mr. Yardley, and she ends up getting quite a raise as long as she keeps moving forward.
Yeah.
So everybody ends up happy. It turns out the fiance of the Navy man shows up to come clean to him and say that she actually already got married to his best friend.
Right. who had proved himself a scallywag anyway,
yes.
Right from the beginning. He's the ladies' man at the hospital, so really no surprise there.
Right, no surprise there. And when they discover there's this sort of Romeo and Juliet moment when, you think one of them's going to wander off upset, and it turns out he there's this beautiful, sweet moment where he is, he's like egging her on at the end and finally says, I know everything. And they come clean to each other and realize that there are no extra relationship commitments, and they can be with one another. And that's very rewarding, and it all just sort of comes out very quickly, and then the movie's over.
Yeah, it is like the last 10 minutes, but it's the resolution of the film.
That's right.
I don't know.
It's like the punchline. It needs to be no longer.
I think what would have happened if this were remade today, as so often happens in this sort of film, when the truth comes out, one person is upset and leaves. The other person, that's when it's kind of the end of the second act, and they go into that, the dark bottom of the second act, right? As we transition into the third act, and then they have to make that change within themselves, so then they can come back and go fight for that person. And that's so often how these sorts of films end now. And this, it's a different sort of old school ending where, the truth comes out and everyone's happy. Hey, that's great.
Oh, thank goodness we don't have to have any emotional resolution. Let's just go get married and kiss a lot.
And roll in the snow.
Yeah. So
good. It is fun, though. It is a very fun movie. I found myself laughing out loud quite a number of times, particularly Uncle Felix with his, just all the catastrophe things and just everything else.
Yeah.
His character is great. And just some of the food stuff. The fact that he's cooking, what was he cooking for breakfast? Like kidneys?
Yeah.
It's like the smell of the kidneys draws Yardley to the kitchen, and he can't leave yet because he just has to have some kidneys. And it's like, God, and sardines for breakfast. And there's just some, it's like, this is really what people were eating back then, I guess.
See what I mean? None of it stands up over time. None of it, I tell you. Let's see. Okay, so favorite bits in the film? You have any favorite bits?
I did enjoy the flapjack one quite a bit. I don't know. I just thought that was great. I knew exactly where it was going, but it was just fun to just to watch that play out. And it's just so funny. Everyone is so obsessed with watching every little moment that she does. It's like, I find it so strange that they feel the need to watch this woman flip the perfect flapjack. And
well, yes, it's so strange until you think, what would people be like at Martha Stewart's house?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's the parallel, right?
Right.
That
you want to know that she's the one who's actually doing it.
Exactly. This is.
I think we're more cynical. Let's see if Martha Stewart really does her own stuff, or who she really has do it.
Well,
I think we're a little more cynical thinking that.
I don't even need to know that. I don't even think it's cynicism. It's you know what this is. It may be just fandom. It's the same thing if you're a fan of a particular musician and you get to see them live. Like you just are exuberant and passionate about the experience of seeing them play live. I think for those who are into homecraft. Getting to experience Martha Stewart in her element to see how she does her stuff it could be fanboyism more than anything else. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing here, that Mr. Yardley wants to see that this is the real element he's been paying for. Probably some of that, but I feel like everybody's pretty genuine in their enthusiasm about just being a part of her universe, and the fact that universe is a Hollywood backlot is the kind of setting of The Lie.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that about it very much. For me, anything with the baby I thought was fantastic. In particular, the baby bathing moment.
Yeah,
when she tries to bathe the baby, and the sailor just wants to watch everything. And if I watch you bathe the baby, well, I don't think. No, come on, please. No, really. Oh, come on. I'll just watch. And she ends up getting him to actually bathe the baby. I think is hysterical.
It is great.
There are some really fantastic moments there.
And just even the fact, just the whole did you say the baby's name? Did you say this? Oh, sorry, Roberta, I meant.
Yes. That, and as you already mentioned, S.Z. Sakall as Felix Basanak, the neighbor chef, who apparently is, in her debt in some way, which they aren't ever quite clear about. I guess she loaned him money or something to get his restaurant started in New York. And so in exchange, she's been supplying her with meals and recipes for the magazine. But him running the show at the house in Connecticut is really priceless. Having a judge climb out the window as a quote shortcut to avoid being seen by the publisher. I mean, there are just some really wonderful lampoon elements that he
pretending the baby swallowed the watch.
Yes, all the watch. He calls it. It's a giant pocket watch, like a giant man's pocket watch. And the only nod to the fact that that's a little odd is the sailor saying, "That watch?" And it's such a fast moment, but it's wonderful. It's a wonderful exchange.
It really is.
The watch is literally the size of the baby's face. Like it's giant. So there are some really great moments in this film, and
they set his character up so well, leading right up to the end with Elizabeth getting to stay on, and that whole ruse that he pulls over Yardley's eyes with the letter from the other magazine.
Right. He does set up a competitive environment, and that ends up being what changes Yardley's mind, not to fire her. Which, it makes him, he's sort of the biggest cog in this machine that it's around Felix and his brief exchanges with characters that the relationships all sort of are set in motion.
Yeah.
And he's hysterical doing it. And, he was in, let's see, where do we know him from? S.Z. Sakall, Casablanca.
He's in Casablanca, yeah. That's, I think, the big one. Yankee Doodle Dandy in the Good Old Summertime.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody who's been in a good number of films.
Did you catch his nickname?
I didn't catch his nickname.
Cuddles.
Oh.
That's not a joke either. That Wikipedia told me.
That's so sweet. Yeah, he actually was, I think, in Europe when Hitler came into power, and he fled and started getting into all the films out here. That's kind of that lovely, befuddled character. But he'd been in films since 1916, so he's been around.
Wow. His rotund cuteness caused studio head Jack Warner to bestow on Sakall the name Cuddles. Warner asked that he be billed as S.Z. Cuddles Sakall in his later films, though he was never happy with the name.
I wonder why not.
But his best, and apparently this is, although this is the first time I've actually ever heard this, but apparently his catchphrase from this film is something that he, as an actor, became well known by. Everything is hunky dunky.
Right. It's hunky dunky.
It's hunky dunky.
It's hunky dunky. It's good. It's
good. It's good.
I just loved his catastrophe thing. What is this catastrophe? And then he kept saying it through. I don't know. I thought he was great. I absolutely loved watching him through the film.
Me too. He was a treat. Let's see. Sidney Greenstreet, our friend.
He is always great to watch, and it's nice to see him pop up in things that I had not seen before. I mean, I always loved him from Casablanca, Maltese Falcon, and getting a chance to just see him pop up in this was a lot of fun.
Oh man, Maltese Falcon. He was great in that film.
Yes, he was.
Reginald Gardiner. What do we know Reginald Gardiner from? I had not. He was not somebody that I had made note of, though he's been in a bunch of stuff.
He's been in a bunch of stuff. He was in The Great Dictator with Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin,
right. His first began in films with The Lodger in Alfred Hitchcock, but he didn't really get into stuff until he moved out to Hollywood and started working out here. So I think he started in the mid-30s in Hollywood and Born to Dance, 1936. And, he always kind of became one of those butlers and, as they call them, silly-ass upper-crust English twits.
They do say that. Wow.
I guess that was kind of his calling, so to speak. Oh, like
Well,
a guy.
yes, exactly. And it comes to, in The Man Who Came to Dinner, he plays a man called Beverly, and that really does set it up, right?
He does that role well.
Yes.
He did it well here.
Indeed.
Dennis Morgan was a kind of a bit player in Hollywood, but he started popping up more after he was in Kitty Foyle with Ginger Rogers in 1940. And I think he just was a guy who ended up being in a decent number of films after that, and I mean, geez, all the way up
into
into
good westerns in the 50s and 60s, and then
a lot of TV. Did lots of TV, even in The Love Boat. So he's a guy who'd been around for a while.
Hey, you've been around long enough to be on The Love Boat.
Then you know you made it.
You know you've made it. You and Chaco.
Indeed.
And of course, Barbara Stanwyck.
A funny story about Barbara Stanwyck. I was watching this with my wife, and my wife goes, "Is that Barbara Stanwyck?" And I go, "Yep." And she goes, and I go, "Thornbirds." She goes, "Oh my God, how did you know I was going to say that?" I don't know. It seems to be, she's that actress that so many people, or women, I guess, maybe know her from when they first saw Thornbirds when it aired in the early 80s. She was Mary Carson in Thornbirds, and that's exactly where my wife first met the lovely Barbara Stanwyck. And I knew that was exactly where she was going with that. So
that's interesting. I never watched it. Did you ever? Did you?
I never watched it, but I think many women did. I mean, I think my mom watched it. She and her mom have watched it. I know her mom has the DVDs. So it's definitely one of those, epic sweeping TV miniseries from the 80s that just 60 years of this family and their ranch and everything that went.
Brogada.
Yeah.
How do you say that in Australian? Drogheda. How would you say that?
I don't know.
It's fictional. It's a fictional sheep station.
Oh, then if it's fictional, then you can say it however you want.
See, but when I say it, it sounds like I'm saying something from the Game of Thrones.
Or a disease.
Not a. That's right. It's a hot zone kind of a thing.
That's right.
Barbara Stanwyck is she's one of those sort of Meryl Streepy kind of women in this role. She's Meryl Streepy and Devil Wears Prada kind of a vibe going. Although more approachable. But that fast language is so funny to watch. The way what I really appreciate about her performance in this film, in the fact that we have a lot of sort of slapstick going on around her. I love the way she transitions from her place of power in New York to her place of weakness in Connecticut. To watch her play this woman who's so used to being in control of everything to being out of control, I think she does really charmingly. When the cow sticks its head in the kitchen, her reaction to that is just pitch perfect for this film. I love the way she tries to touch it and how far she holds the leash so that she can stand away from it. Like that whole sequence of her trying so desperately to be romantic while holding a cow is I think, really an exemplar here for just how well she handles this kind of a role. And her ability to jump from comedy to drama is, obviously
and noir
strong.
and everything.
Noir,
I mean,
right.
Stella
Ziegfeld
Dallas.
Girl, right.
Yeah, the Lady Eve, and of course Double Indemnity, which is I think my favorite film that she's in. And The Furies. I mean, she's an actress who's just been in just a huge variety of films and some TV, lots of great stuff. And just one of those that I've always loved to watch. And she always brings a lot of power to the screen, and I think she definitely brings that here. And like you said, she plays that really well, where she's in her element in New York in this, and she's so great out of her element in Connecticut. But something else about that I do like is she's out of her element in Connecticut, but it's not played like the dumb blonde out of her element sort of way.
Right.
It's played, I think, very smartly and very much in sympathy with the character, which I really like about this film. It's never like the stuff with the cow. It's never done like you would see done now, where it's just like it's diminishing her as a character. It still makes her a strong character. She's just not in the element of stuff that she understands, and I think that's a real strength of this film.
I think that, maybe I like the way you put that better. It's not necessarily a point of weakness, but a point where a place where she just is out of her, her element. She just does not understand anything going on around her.
Right.
But what's interesting about it is that what gives her strength, right, and ends up sort of clearing the air, is doing what she does best when she's in New York, and her place of strength, which is, fabricate, create lies, right? She fabricates this tale, and so she brings kind of her power move from New York to this place that she doesn't understand and tries to apply. What she understands onto this foreign land, and that's what kind of makes the film sort of funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah, this film, I think it was the first film, I believe I'm right in saying that she did with Peter Godfrey, who directed the film. And they became great friends after this. He ended up naming one of his daughters after her and putting her in, I think, 2 or 3 more of his films after this. Godfrey was an interesting director of the time. I read this quote about him. Peter Godfrey was a supporting player in the lexicon of Hollywood directors, but for a time he proved that style could triumph over narrative and that film technique was and is an art in itself. So he's one of those directors who nobody talks about that much, but he did do some interesting films, and this was one of the war comedies that he did, and he kind of was known for these gothic dramas that he would do, like The Woman in White and The Two Mrs. Carols and Cry Wolf. He did some of those. He didn't really get into the noirs so much, but he did kind of some of these darker dramatic films, and I think that quote said it pretty well. He was a director who never quite made it to the top, but he did some films that kind of got close to pushing him there. They just never quite did.
What's your experience with Peter Godfrey? I mean, how many of his films do you feel like you've seen?
This is the only one. This is the first one that I've seen of his. I mean, looking through the list of his films, I know I've heard of quite a number of them.
Yeah.
Like Hotel Berlin, which was the remake of I just totally blanked on Grand Hotel. That was the remake of Grand Hotel. Cry Wolf, Two Mrs. Carols, The Woman in White, and I think that's all I'd heard of his. So I mean, he was directing up until the late 50s, and then he died in 1970. So, and then he also did a lot of plays, a lot of TV, a lot of other stuff. And, he came from the world of theater and moved into films when he came over to the U.S. Interestingly, when, during the war, I mean, he was making films like this, but he also would go out to army camps around the country, and he was an amateur magician, and he would stage shows and put on like magic shows for the troops, which I think is a pretty interesting little, side note for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He played a magician looks like in Blockade, his own film, I believe. No, that wasn't his own film, but he played a cafe magician with Henry Fonda and Madeline Carroll. Mm-hmm. I did not know he was a magician. Yeah. Himself.
Amateur.
Fascinating.
Yeah, no, interesting.
If you're paid to be an actor who is a magician and you are also a magician, does that not make you a professional magician?
I don't know. That's kind of are you I may not be a doctor, but I play one on TV.
Right, but if you are also a doctor, I think that the Big Bang Theory also does this. You know, Mayim Bialik is a neuroscientist in real life, and she plays I think she plays like a biologist on the show. I guess that would not make her a real biologist.
You mean a real, yeah.
She would have to be a biologist and play a biologist.
Right.
Or be playing a neuroscientist. Do you see where I'm going with this?
That's very heavy.
Yeah, it's not that heavy.
Not really.
Pretty
just trying to
what
give
else,
your conversation weight.
What else you got?
Una O'Connor, who is the housemaid,
Nora,
I guess in this. Yeah, she's fantastic and fun to watch. And I love how she's going to quit because everything is just, she can't believe that this would happen. And just, I don't know, her character is great, the back and forth. She's been around quite a bit, though. Witness for the Prosecution, The Adventures of Robin Hood, The Invisible Man, The Bride of Frankenstein. And she's somebody who definitely had been around, did a lot of great stuff. Something about her look, I think, worked really well in those horror classics, but also works really well in the comedic roles. And so I think she was able to function really well in both types of films. And she's just fun to watch. I think that this sort of film does rely a lot on casting actors who have great looks with the comedy. And I think that Godfrey and his team did a great job with it.
Sure reminds me of Cloris Leachman.
She does. That's exactly who I was thinking. Oh, that's hilarious.
Right? Is that like there are only 7 models of people? Cloris Leachman's definitely one.
That's right.
I could not, I'm watching this, and the whole time I'm thinking about Frau Blücher.
Although I guess technically Cloris Leachman would be the Una O'Connor model.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
Yes, right.
That's right.
Oh, that's good.
So
that
funny.
is good.
Let's see. Anybody else you want to hire? I mean, we've got Frank Jenks as Sienkiewicz, and Joyce Compton as Mary Lee, the lovely
nurse,
the lovely nurse Fallon's.
Yeah.
I think the more important thing to talk about is, have you seen the 1992 remake of Christmas in Connecticut starring Diane Cannon and Chris Christopherson?
And Tony Curtis, and directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I think the tagline says it best. She's hungry for ratings. He's hungry for dinner. Christmas in Connecticut.
Did you send Did you watch the trailer that I sent to you?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it looks terrible. We should put that in the show notes just so people can have a good laugh, because it looks really, really bad. And it's so bad. This was in 1992, so hot on the heels of Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2, Judgment Day. There's there's a moment in the trailer where it says directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it cuts to a character who's wearing the black jacket and looks like just that tough look. And he looks at the camera and goes, "I'll be back." It's like, oh man, Arnie, you did that.
Talk about a parade of bad decisions.
Yeah, it looks pretty atrocious. So definitely
terrible.
Not one I'm going to put on my list of things to watch, but the trailer should give you a good laugh.
Did you find any money on this film?
I found nothing about money on this film. I didn't find how much it cost to make. I didn't find how much it made. I didn't find anything. All I found was it was released July 20th, 1945, which struck me as odd because, this is a Christmas movie, and here they are releasing it in July. So Christmas in July all over again.
That's weird. That's just weird. It was... let's see. So we have no money. We have, it's a good film. I think it's worth watching. It's worth adding to your Christmas collection, if only because the last 10 minutes make up for a lot of the other, for me, the cultural ridiculousness that doesn't hold up. I really enjoyed it. It still left me with a nice warm feeling. It did not crack the top 100 of my personal flick chart.
No, it didn't top mine either, but I think I enjoyed it a little more. I think I was able to kind of step back into the 40s a little more with this one, and just kind of revel in that world that this one was coming from. It's a fun, light film, and it's really funny. There's some great characters in it, and I think anyone who gives it a shot will have some good laughs and a nice little romance.
Definitely a gem. Let's rank it.
All right.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel and you can catch up with all the films that we've worked on. If you want a direct link to our golden ticket list, just head over to the blog or to the website, thenextreel.com, and you'll see the badge in the sidebar there. And you can jump over to our Flickchart Top 100 and we'll see if Christmas in Connecticut is going to crack it.
Let's see. Christmas in Connecticut or Thank You for Smoking?
Thank you for smoking.
Thank you for smoking it is. Oh, Christmas in Connecticut or Big Fish?
Big Fish.
Oh, man.
You know you have to. You know you have to.
Why do I have to? Why do I have to?
Are you serious?
Yes. I have problems with that film, but
I know you have problems with that film, but come on, man.
Just give me one reason.
Yeah, here's the thing. Everything but John August. I know you aren't crazy about John August, but the rest of the movie, the Tim Burton.
Actually, Tim Burton is the reason I don't like the movie.
Please.
I like the script for this movie. John August.
Ewan McGregor and Albert Finney. Are you kidding me?
I will give you this one because of the scene with Albert Finney in the bathtub. That sounds terrible.
You're a horrible human being. The way that you behave on this holiday week is unconscionable.
Kevin Costner. All right, Christmas in Connecticut. I did pick Big Fish.
Thank you.
Just so you know. Christmas in Connecticut or the Wolverine?
I'm going to pick the
Christmas
Wolverine.
in Connecticut. Come on. Oh.
You know, I honestly, I'm
such
not
a bad movie.
No, I'm not that. I'm not that swayed on Wolverine. I'm like right in the middle ground there. So I'll give you Christmas in Connecticut. But I think that there are some pretty compelling visuals in the Wolverine. That
there are compelling visuals, but compelling visuals do not a great movie make.
I know some brothers Wachowski who would disagree with you.
Christmas in Connecticut or the 2004 Dawn of the Dead?
Dawn of the Dead.
Zombies. All right.
If that cow had been a zombie, maybe.
All right. Christmas in Connecticut. Oh, this is fun. Christmas in Connecticut or Bull Durham. More little Kevin Costner Christmas present for you.
I hate this job.
I'll do Christmas in Connecticut because it makes me laugh.
I'll do Christmas in Connecticut because it's not Bull Durham.
Christmas in Connecticut or Thor, The Dark World. Man, there's an odd pairing.
How do you even begin?
Especially because the poster they picked for Thor is the poster of, what's his name? The Dark Elf Malakoth or whatever his name is. It just is like the last thing you'd think of when you think of a Christmas movie.
I'm going to go Thor.
Are ya?
Yeah.
I'm hard pressed to pick Thor.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was easy.
But I will. Christmas in Connecticut or Major League? They both
What
are
a crazy pairing that this is. I mean, all of these.
I know.
There's just something not
really
right.
is.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to pick.
This is actually closer to me, Christmas in Connecticut and Major League, in terms of, I mean, baseball, but just this sort of general comedic sentiment is probably closer than any others.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go Major League.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'll go Major League also. What the heck? All right, 108. 108 out of 127.
Well, sorry, Christmas in Connecticut, but it was fun knowing you.
It was, it is a fun film, and it's definitely one that I'll watch again. It is. Fun.
It's not one I'm going to watch not during the holidays.
No, it's a holiday movie. It's something that I'll put on during the holidays, but not outside of that. But it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm glad I watched it. Check that one off my list.
Totally. Now, the big question: where do we go from here? It's New Year's. Next week is our New Year's film. What are we doing?
We're gonna do the Hudsucker Proxy. We're gonna have a little taste of Cohen. Just
a
in
little
time
dab.
for the holidays, yeah.
Well, it'll be a little bit late. So this will be actually our. Well, it's a new year. It's our first
It'll
film.
be the new year. Yeah, it'll be the first film of the new year. We're gonna air, I think, next Friday, right?
Yeah. So the next Friday is our first. I can't believe it. So should we? Do you have any thoughts about how this last year has been? Any highlights?
I don't have any highlights, but it was a lot of fun. The whole thing was a highlight, Pete.
What is the? What's
I think for me the highlight was our wonderful,
please.
fun-filled conversation about Yee.
So not a highlight.
It was a fun conversation.
Not a highlight.
It was a fun conversation. No, we did a lot of fun series. I think we had a great time with Couples on the Run, our heist film and magic films, even though the Woody Allen one wasn't that great.
Now You See Me.
Yeah, Now You See Me, but that was a film board movie, but still.
What? What was your? Give me your favorite series of the year.
Oh boy, favorite series of this past year. Let's see. The series that we did: Catherine Bigelow, John Huston, Baseball, original sci-fi, 1976, Patty Chayefsky, Magicians, heist films, Couples on the Run, Coen Brothers, romantic comedy, David Mamet, foreign language films.
That's tough.
That is really tough. I really enjoyed the original sci-fi series. I thought it was just fun to revisit those. If it wasn't for Strange Days, I'd say I really enjoyed the Catherine Bigelow series. The John Huston series was great. I enjoyed our two baseball picks this year. 1976, I know you hated Taxi Driver.
But you know what? I would say, interestingly, I think the 1976 is the one that I remember probably the most. I think it was the most interesting. And I learned the most probably from Patty Chayefsky, just in talking about the differences between Network and, the hospital and Marty. I think in terms of Patty Chayefsky's sort of writing, I think I held him in much higher esteem than maybe judging by the work that we sampled is deserved. Heist films, I think we always is always a big win. I loved the Couples on the Run films that we chose. I think it was a nice broad mix from Midnight Run to It Happened One Night, Butch Cassidy, True Romance. I mean, just fantastic films. Night of the Hunter was a great surprise for me. One that I hadn't seen. And of course, go ahead.
I was going to say the Couples on the Run was a lot of fun, and it's amazing how many Couples on the Run movies there are out there. And I think you're right. The ones we ended up covering, I don't know if it wasn't intentionally. We just happened to pick those ones, but it ended up feeling like we kind of covered the gamut of crime stories, of westerns, of kind of the children on the run, the romantic comedy. It ended up being kind of a nice spread across the genres, which I really enjoyed. It didn't feel like it was pinned into one specific thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking at our series coming up in 2014, we have more of that.
Yeah.
In these longer series with films that are that span sort of a broader scope.
Yeah.
Good year, Andy.
Absolutely. Lots of movies that we had great time talking about.
Absolutely. Here's to 2014.
Here's to it, man.
All right.
Clink.
I gotta go to bed. It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor.
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.